Hey everybody, Crystal Gamer here, and welcome to my Sims channel where I put out 2 or more videos a week, all different types of Sims content, from builds to tutorials to cast videos and more, and where today I'm going to run through 10 tips to help you with your build photography in The Sims. Now, I'm an outdoor photographer, link to my photo site below if anyone wants to check that out, so I have some photography skills. That said, Sims photography is a very different animal, but I think some of the skills translate or at least give me a bit of an edge, and hopefully I can pass some of that on to you today in this video. So I'm using a 25 tile build, or 27 tile build, excuse me, for this video. So we're going to see what it's like to take photos in tight spaces too. So this build is on the gallery too if anyone's interested. It's under my Crystal Gamer 1EAID, and actually I may touch on a couple of other builds, though they're all on the gallery if I touch on them in this video. So let's get on with it. Tip number 1 is to use Twisted Mexi's BuildMode FreeCam mod. Now, I know some of you may not be mod users, and it's not absolutely necessary for you to use this to get good pictures, but I personally absolutely love it. I can't recommend it enough, and it's never caused a problem in my system at all. It doesn't need to be updated. It's a fabulous mod. So what does it do? Well, it allows you to enter FreeCam while you're in build mode, which is a hugely convenient thing for build photography. And we're going to see a little bit how that works today as well as I do some of the stuff. So you can see if you maybe like it and want to check it out. And as you can see here, he has a Patreon. So if you're one of those fortunate people that has money, you know what to do. Next up, and this one might go without saying for some people, but some people may use their mouse exclusively. If you do, I'm going to strongly advise you learn how to use the ADSWQE keys. So as you can see here, A is left, D is right, S is backward, W is forward, Q is to lower the camera, E is to raise the camera. Now all of these work in FreeCam mode, where you're probably going to be taking the vast majority of your pictures, at least where I suggest you take the vast majority of your pictures. And so getting very used to these is helpful. Now, mind you, I screw this stuff up all the time. Like I'm always hitting the wrong letter for the wrong thing, but if you can get used to it, it's super helpful for photography. Next up, we're going to start getting into composition here, and we're going to talk about angles. So one of the things that I did here so that we can look really quickly is I just typed in interior design into the wonderful world of the internet and clicked on images, and here we go. We have interior design images. And so the big thing that I want you all to notice about these images is that they are all taken at eye level. No one has their camera in the sky. No one is taking a camera up and putting it on like a 10-foot selfie stick and putting it in the sky to take a picture. All of them are at eye level. Now, we Simmers are hugely guilty of taking photos from, you know, angles like this, or even just, I don't know, like even something like this. People will take photos, some sort of angles like this. This is not the way interior shots are ever done. Like interior design shots are never done at funky up angles. And mind you, this is another thing I've done myself. I'm a Simmer. You get used to looking at these up angles all the time where you're over a build and everything. And that's just, if you want to make a good interior design shot, it's not the way to do it. If you want to take shots of your floor plan and go up here, absolutely, definitely take shots of your floor plan. But if you're looking to sort of show off your interior design of your Sims house, then try to get right in there and go down at eye level. Now, I'm going to show that very quickly. I'm in build mode. I'm going to hit the tab. It's going to take me to FreeCam, just as it does if I am in live mode. And I'm going to use my keys. I'm going to take the Q and go down, W forward, Q goes down. And I'm just kind of moving into the room, moving through the walls into the room. And here we have it. And then I move my mouse up to lift the camera. Now, we're kind of close in on this, right? Like we're cutting some stuff off there, some shelves up there we're cutting off the floor and everything. And this is a tight space. It is a 27 tile house. It's very small, so we may want to back the camera up. So that brings me to the next tip after the angles. Take the photos at eye level. Your next tip is do not zoom too much. Or actually, let me revise that. Only zoom in or out as much as you need to. So only as much as absolutely necessary. So obviously I can take the camera and I can zoom way out. And when I do that, there's a whole lot of distortion everywhere. Everything looks massively distorted. And of course I can go way in too. It doesn't get nearly so distorted on going way in. It's just more that you can start to see that things look a little bit blurry pixel wise. Some things don't. The fishbowl actually looks pretty clear, but whoops, didn't mean to go that far. But that stuff looks a little bit blurry pixel-wise. Fishbowl's good, though. But in any case, you want to only zoom out as much as you need to. So if you remembered, we were cutting off the bottom. I just zoomed out 1 click. There's 2 clicks. Not too much distortion. This might be acceptable. I might go with something like this for a picture. And some people don't mind the distortion. For someone like me that's a photographer, excessive distortion can look I don't know, just not that appealing is the thing. So just go out only as much as you need to. And note also, as far as zooming in or zooming out, there's 2 different ways to do it. You can use the scroll wheel on your mouse, or you can use the plus minus. There may be other ways as well, but those are the 2 that I know of and use the most. I find that the plus minus gives me a slightly smoother move. So if I'm trying to only move it just a tiny hair, I'll be more likely to use the plus minus because my scroll wheel sort of does it in larger increments. So that may work the same or different for you. Try it out both ways and see what works best. Next tip is on centering photos. So you want to use some of the Sims guides to center photos. So whether you are in build mode or in live mode, The Sims has some stuff on the left that can make you go a little bit off center. And because this stuff here on the left, like your eye will automatically sort of compensate for that, and you'll end up just a little bit off center. So if that happens and you're in build mode, say you use Twisted Mexi's mod, you want to use this area up here, and the space between the 2 arrows is your center point when you are in build mode. So if you want to center on something, center right in that space between the 2 arrows. When you are in live mode, however, your space is down here at the bottom. It's the fast speed button. So that is your center. Did I say space? Your center is the fast speed button. So say I want to center on the mailbox. I can just kind of drag this to the mailbox. There we go. I'm centered pretty well. A little bit over more. There we go. I'm centered on the mailbox now. So that's where I wanted to be centered on this image, centered on that. If I go into tab, I'm there. Now this brings me to our next tip. Our tip number 6 is to use lines to help your photos. Use lines right in the game. Now, what I mean by lines is we've got a top roof line here. I can line up with that. We've got a bottom sidewalk line here. I can line up with that. So there's lines here, and you'll almost always have lines going the other way too, like the fences go up and create straight lines going into the photo. So use the lines that are there to line up your photo so you don't end up with something like, even on something like this, if you're off just a little bit, you can see it in the sidewalk lines, even if your camera is off just a little bit. So just try and, like, I might use that middle line of the sidewalk. Say I want to have a little bit of the sidewalk in the front. I can just use the middle line of the sidewalk, line up the camera right there, and that's perfect. And so now I'm centered on the mailbox, and you can center obviously wherever you want, but I centered this image on the mailbox. I lined it up with the sidewalk lines at the bottom, and so I have the picture exactly the way I want it. So I'm going to click tab, get out of that mode. So tab takes you in and out. Don't forget that, in and out of FreeCam mode. And you definitely want to use FreeCam you want to use them both together, actually. That could be another tip. But you want to use both modes together, because this mode here will help you center and line up your image, and then going into FreeCam, you can do it the rest of the way. The next tip is pay attention to foreground and background items. So we're back inside the interior of our little house here, and I have the camera set up, and now you might take a picture like this, but to me, the thing that I notice most in this photo is the bright white counter at the front. It's taking over the photo. It's a foreground item that is not adding to the photo. So some foreground items you want, some can add to a photo. because what a foreground item will do oftentimes is create an illusion of depth. It gives a sense of depth to the viewer. So some foreground items are good if that's what they're doing. If they're giving a sense of depth and they're not distracting from your subject, they're good. If, however, they look like this and they're taking over the photo either due to their color, due to their size, or whatever it is, move the camera around. And that is the next tip. Watch your foreground and background items, and then don't be afraid to move the camera. So in this case, I can just move the camera over here a little bit and look at the difference in photo. Instead of having that huge white counter there, I've got a much better photo showing pretty much the same thing that I was showing before, but I don't have this horrid foreground item that's taking up the whole photo. And oh, by the way, take this into your photography outside of The Sims as well, for both foreground and background items. Maybe even when you're out in the real world doing photography, background may be even more important, because most people, most non-photographers, don't pay attention to background items. How many times have you taken photos somewhere and then you get them back, or well, nowadays everything's instant, but years ago you used to take them with film, get them back, and you'd be like, oh, well, look, there's a telephone pole coming out of Susie's head, or look at that lovely trash barrel over there that I didn't notice that if I moved 3 steps over, I could have avoided having this ugly trash barrel in my photo. You know, nowadays photos are instant, so you're more likely to notice that stuff after you take the picture in and can see it. But if you can get used to looking at background and foreground before you take the picture, you can save yourself some time and heartache and get rid of, possibly, if you're able to move the camera a little bit, unsightly items in your photos. For our next tip, tip number 9, we are visiting a different build because I wanted a super tight squeeze to show you this one. And this one is not to be afraid to move walls and other items. So oftentimes, especially when you're in very tight spaces in The Sims, you will end up trying to back up the camera to take a picture and poof, you're in the middle of a wall. And I don't know why. I think a lot of people don't think of this. Move the wall. You're in The Sims. You can move the wall. And this is one of the places where Twisted Mexi's mod really comes in handy. So, for instance, I want to use this for an example. We have this super tight section here with this tiny little hallway when you first come in. It's the tiny, tiny, itty bitty foyer. And then we've got this tiny, tiny, itty bitty bathroom. So say you wanted to take a photo of the inside of this kind of boring bathroom. And why you'd want to do that, I don't know. But say you did. Obviously, this wall is going to be in your way. If I try to set up the camera here, there is no way on God's green earth that I am going to be able to take this photo without running into this wall. I'm just going to be in the middle of it, and it's no good. So I move the wall. No big deal. Move the wall. Now I just blew out my window, my planter, my stairs, and all of that. And I'm going to show you why Twisted Mexi's mod is so awesome in a second. But I'm going to lower my camera down into here. I'm going into tab mode. I'm using the Q to lower it, the S to back up, W to forward. I'm going to use page down, I think. End. There you go, end, to take the walls down. So the end key takes the walls down, or of course you can do it with your mouse if you're outside of FreeCam mode. But I'm just going to set it up here, and so there's the inside of my bathroom. I can zoom out a little bit. Now I took the walls down. In this case, you can knock the walls out, like if you don't like that line on the right that you can see with the walls coming down. That's the other thing. I took that other wall, I backed it up. If I wanted to, I can just eliminate the walls here. I chose to hit the end key just because it's not that important to me for a little bathroom shot, but I could just eliminate the walls. People are often afraid to do that, but yeah, don't be afraid to eliminate walls, eliminate anything you need to be able to take the photos. You can always put it back, especially if you use Twisted Mexi's mod, because if you use Twisted Mexi's mod, you're still in build mode. You just hit tab, you get out of the FreeCam, you're still in build mode. A Control Z gets all your stuff back. There are my stairs, my window, my planter. Isn't that wonderful? It's beautiful. Control Z is a wonderful thing. Get it all back. You do that in Twisted Mexi's mode, and it takes 2 seconds. Or with Twisted Mexi's build mode FreeCam mod. All that's really hard to say. But if you don't want to do the mod and you do it in the live mode, you can. It's just that you're going to have to go back into build mode. And in this case, I'd have to re-add the window, the planter, the stairs, all of that good stuff. So it takes you a little bit longer. It's less convenient. That's the big thing. That mod is just super convenient. Now, this takes us to our final tip of the day, and that is to change the lot type as needed for your photography. So this is another time-saving tip. Say I build this house, and especially if it's a large home, like say it's a massive home. I've got a 64 by 64 lot. It's worth a ton of simoleons. I have no simoleons with that kind of money. I don't want to move anyone in. I maybe don't like to use the free real estate cheat or something like that. The easy way to take photos in that case is just to change your lot type to the generic lot type temporarily, send a sim, go into live mode, send a sim to go visit your lot, and then you can hit the page down button and get into the house to take all the photos you want very easily. And of course, once you hit tab and go into FreeCam mode, you can get into the place anyway, but changing lot type might be a little bit easier. I find it a little bit convenient. I change lot type back and forth periodically to generic to make it easier to get into homes and take photos, or even just to have sims test. If I want to do tests and I want to do test photos and stuff like that, instead of moving a sim in, I'll make it into a generic for both photography and testing purposes. So that's just another little tip for you. So to quickly go over today's tips, we had getting twisted Mexi's build cam mode, not a requirement, but definitely a huge convenience. Learning your keyboard keys and moving around with them in FreeCam mode for taking photos. Take photos at eye level, avoid up angles, look at interior design images and see what those look like and kind of copy them a little bit. It will benefit your photography. Zoom in and out only as much as necessary. Use the plus or minus for smooth zoom in and out and the scroll wheel to do a little bit larger steps for zooming out. Center your photos using the space between the two arrows at the top in build mode or the fast forward at the middle fast forward in live mode. Use the lines in your build or on sidewalks or whatnot to line up your photo. 7 is pay attention to foreground and background items. And 8 goes with that. Don't be afraid to move the camera around if there's anything unsightly, or move the stuff in the Sims. If you have a trash can you don't want or a telephone pole you don't want in the image, you can just move them out of the way. And that takes us to number 9. Don't be afraid to move walls and other items for your photography. It's the Sims. You have all the power. You are God. You can change it back. And number 10, change the lot type as needed for both photography and testing convenience there, changing back and forth between generic and residential. So hopefully this was helpful to you. And if it was, please don't forget to hit that like below. And if you're not subscribed yet, definitely hit the subscribe button, especially if you like The Sims. I have a ton of different Sims content I put out regularly. And thank y'all for spending the time with me today. I do appreciate it. And I hope to see y'all back again next time. Bye now.